What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And what if I told you that perhaps the most valuable Nuestra Familia prison gang or NF criminal organization, whatever you want to call it, but the most valuable asset or former member of that group that the federal government has ever flipped is already solving cases and they haven't even testified yet, right? Let me explain. So, November 19th, 1999, Jimmy Torres Rodriguez is 27 years old, and he walks into the Country Motors auto dealership, which is owned by Elias Diaz, and he ends his life, right? He smokes. At the time, Diaz is 39 years old. Now, this happens, like I said, in 99, and it remains unsolved, right? It's an unsolved homicide. It's a cold case, a lot of violence in Salinas, until all of a sudden, July of 2021, when they arrest Jimmy at his home in Tulare County. In December, he gets convicted in Monterey County of that crime of ending, dude's life, and then is sentenced just last month to 50 to life in prison. Jimmy is currently 52 years old, so it's highly unlikely he will ever hit the streets again. Now, the media in Central California and Northern California in particular have celebrated this, right? There's this new cold case unit in Monterey County, and they say that they got a tip. They got a witness, got some information that then directed them, and they have some clothing, which is distinctive clothing that has DNA that matches Jimmy. I wasn't at the trial. I didn't look at all the details. But again, he got convicted, he got sentenced. And that's why I'm talking about this now. Because I think there's a story there, right? So Jimmy is from a neighborhood in Salinas known as East Market, right? Salinas East Market. Very well-known neighborhood. Some people from that neighborhood have gone on to become gang members. A lot of people from the neighborhood are not. But nonetheless, it is a well-known neighborhood throughout the system, in particular with folks from Northern California. And Jimmy, he'd been back and forth to prison, right, prior to this. And he ran around real tough, him, his brother, and others, with this individual named Matt Rocha, right, also known as Mateo. He's from the same neighborhood, right, from the same area. So why did this happen, right? Knowing now that Jimmy was a Northerner and the victim Diaz was a Southsider, right, from, I believe, the Vagos clique. Why did this happen? Well, Jimmy's car had been torched previously, and it was thought to have happened by Southsiders. He's not the only guy with a fondness for Northern California, shall we say, whose car got torched by Southsiders, but maybe that was a reason, right? Maybe he was trying to extort him, right, or shut down some of his illegal operations that he had going on. Who knows, right? The motive is unclear. But what is known is again, he had a strong relationship with Matt Rocha. What do we know about Matt, right? What's up with Mateo? Well, Mateo rose to be a very high-ranking Nuestra Familia prison gang member. A lot of influence, a lot of stories about Mateo. Mateo had a great relationship with a lot of NF members that are in federal custody and have been in federal custody since the end of Black Widow. Uh, Mateo in 2019, while he was in custody in the California Department of Corrections, Mateo gets blasted and comes really close to ending his life by individuals, from the NF that were operating in the state system because they had a little disagreement between state and feds. A lot of you guys watching know about that. If not, just look around. There's lots of videos on it. But so Mateo almost gets his life ended right after this illustrious career as this NF member. We know that by the end of 2020, Matt flipped. Matt was cooperating with the government, right? There's Operation Quiet Storm. There's still a few defendants left in Quiet Storm. So Matt and Duck and others, but I think especially Matt is their star witness, right? That's what reason would suggest. They haven't used him yet. They haven't put him on the stand yet, because he's a very controversial person, right? And once you put him out there and he gets cross-examined, he's almost like damaged goods in terms of using him for other similar prosecutions. So they haven't used him yet. Are they going to use him in Quiet Storm? Depends, right? I don't know. I guess it depends on what defendants are left and how far they're willing to take it and whatnot. I think he played a role in this busting of Jimmy, right? I don't know that Matt was there in 99. But based on their relationship, it stands to reason that Mateo knew about it. And so I can picture something like him telling the cops, "Hey, that was Jimmy that did that, right?" And well, hey, who else knows? Oh well, Jack. And I'm just making up a name. Don't go hating on people named Jack, but Jack knew about it. Why don't you go ask him? And maybe Jack got a little petty case he gets, right? Or maybe Jack has no case and he's just living his life with his family. Then here come the police. Hey, we know that you know what Jimmy did to Elias Diaz back there November 19th, 99. Speak on it, or we're going to radically change your life for the worse. So somebody gave up the goods, right? Now, this is all hypothetical. It's not a hypothetical that Matt Roach is a rat and he flipped and he's working with the government. But the particulars of this stuff is hypothetical, but to me, it kind of makes sense. Now, what lesson is there in this, right? So, like I said, Mateo had an illustrious career as an NF member, right? A lot of people had a lot of love for him. A lot of people really hesitated to believe that he took the route that he took when he took it. There's filters that came out that got put all over YouTube, so I'm not exposing nothing, in which he was held in high regard. And in that very moment those filters were written, where did he stand? Unsure. But like I said, the dude flipped by the end of 2020 at the latest, and just asked folks that were in Santa Rita at the time, right? So what do we know from this? Well, this lifestyle, right? The criminal lifestyle, the gang lifestyle, the organization lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, whatever level you want to talk about it at, right? The motorcycle club lifestyle, we see what's going on with the HA. It's all built on trust, right? It's you believe that as you do something, you put in some work, so to speak, that the person next to you is going to hold their mud and not expose you for it. That the person above you who says, "Hey man, I need you to go handle this," is going to hold their mud and not expose you. That the person beneath you that you pass on the responsibility to is going to do that, and it's going to hold their mud for the long term. And a lot of times when the case first happens, that is the case, right? People do hold their mud. I ain't snitching, I ain't gonna flip, I ain't gonna this. Okay, cool, right? That wasn't the case in my case. In my case, dude told, I think, before he even got out of the cop car. But nonetheless, a lot of times people do hold their mud, but especially with cases like, this one where there's no statute of limitations, you're trusting they will always hold their mud. Everybody is solid until they're not. And none of us know when that moment is going to be, right? We all believe that the dude next to us is ride or die, and he probably is. And then something happens, and all of a sudden he's not. So what's the future here? You're going to wind up likely in the feds, but with a life sentence, right? And you go die in prison. You're going to get politicked, right? And whether you deserve it or not, or whatever, wind up getting blasted, and then over there on the other side, right? So now you're trash, S&Y, for the rest of your life, right? Which is like the worst thing imaginable for folks that are active in the game, right? Is I'll never be over there with those people. You're going to end up over there with those people. Or you're going to flip. You're going to break one day, right? And end up one of those guys, right? Which again is like the worst thing imaginable when you're in the mix. I would never. There's a whole lot of people that flipped that said they never would. So a whole lot of people like Mateo that flipped, that folks were shocked and startled by. What's the other option? Get out of the lifestyle clean and early. Right? I mean, I guess the best option is to never be involved, of course, but is if you are, get out the mix clean and early. And it's funny because there's this tendency, especially on social media, but I think it stretches even further. Oh, that fool's a dropout. That fool's a dropout. Because somebody paroles in good standing from prison and decides, I want to make a family or raise a family, and I don't want one of those futures to be mine. I don't want to do the rest of my life in prison. I don't want to be put in a position where it's bend or break, and maybe I break. I don't want none of that. I don't want to be a co-defendant, right? So I'm going to make different choices in life. And those choices don't involve cooperating with police or anything. They just involve being a civilian. And many people do that. Most people, in fact, actually do that. It's only a handful that stay in the mix, right? And those handful We know what their future is because we know them and we see it. So I think as a community, it would do us well to stop casting all these aspersions on people who one day just decide, you know what? Here's my opportunity. Here's my opportunity to parole and just go off into the sunset, right? Here's my opportunity, man. I'm in the streets. I'm having a kid. I got the job. Here's my opportunity to distance myself from the nonsense in the neighborhood. I still got love for people, but I don't want those futures to be my future, right? I want to try to see if I can build a different future, set a different example, change some generational norms. And it's just interesting to me and kind of sad how quick folks are to jump on that as if that's a bad thing. I make no apologies for it. And I talk to people every day who don't either. There is no loyalty. We know there's no long term loyalty. There's no trust. There's no this. We talk about it. Rappers talk about it. They make shirts about it. There's memes about it. Everybody knows that in this lifestyle, you really can't trust anybody. And even those that you thought you could trust will do something, may do something one day to make you realize that trust was misplaced. Uh, it's a dirty game, but there is another life out there, and I would encourage folks to consider that, to say the least, man. But hey, if you're in the mix, you're in the mix. Do you right? But help others move to excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you, and and just think realistically about your choices, man. Until next time.